Welcome to Conversations That Matter. Today we're going to be talking about a potential job shortage here in British Columbia. Joining me right now is Mike Manier. Mike, who's our guest on the show today and what's their issue?
Yeah, thanks, Stu. Gary Herman is the CEO of the Industry Training Authority. This is a provincial entity that's set up to essentially make sure that we have enough skilled workers to do large infrastructure projects in the province, but also that they're trained well and that the apprenticeship program that helps train these workers is managed well. Very important job, works very closely with the provincial government, has to also work very closely with the labor unions.
You know, and industry.
And industry, that's right. And the numbers here are a couple key numbers that are really remarkable that people should consider. You know, number one, we're anticipating between now and roughly 2022, more than $70 billion worth of major infrastructure projects in the province. Couple that with the fact that we are projecting that we'll need 1 million jobs to get all that work done. Now, about two-thirds of that, though, are the people your age retiring, but that still leaves a lot of new people that we have to either find in Canada, in BC, or elsewhere and train them and make sure they're ready to go.
Well, we had David Keane from the LNG Alliance on, and he openly admits we don't have the labor force here to build all of the proposed LNG plants.
It's one of our historic challenges in Canada, right? We have all these wonderful resources, all this land, but we don't have enough people. And one of the big challenges that the Industry Training Authority also has is not only the number of people, but inspiring that next generation of people to become welders, to become skilled tradespeople that want to build these great infrastructure projects. Because, you know, young people these days, you know, they're into technology and
they want to go to university. They don't want to get a trade.
They do want to go to university. And this is why we've seen also the very clear message from the provincial government that our higher education institutions, our great liberal arts universities, also need to be refocusing their efforts on unskilled workers. And they'll be a target for Mr. Herman as well for collaboration going forward. Again, 1 million jobs is a lot of jobs to fill.
Fascinating conversation because we're at this interesting intersection of cost of university, do I want to trade, how do I see myself, what does the future hold?
Well, and Gary Herman will tell you, this is a guy that grew up through the trades. He's a baby boomer himself, but grew up in schools when they still had something called shop class, which some may remember, where you actually would start training young people in high school for these skilled jobs. And he had a wonderful career both as a skilled laborer and then as an executive. And he really sees part of his mandate here in British Columbia to inspire young people to see the value in skilled labor. You can make a very good wage and have a very nice career in these jobs.
And good entry into entrepreneurship as well. Much lower cost of entry.
And most importantly, you never have to wear a tie.
Fascinating conversation. Let's go to that now. Thanks for joining me. Tell me a little bit about the sort of the arc of your career, because we're talking, the reason that I asked this is that we're talking about Industrial Training Authority helping people get into trades. And yet I look at you and you look like you're CEO material. How did you get here? What was your path?
Well, it was a long journey, actually, Stu. I was fortunate enough to start my career in the trades back in Ontario at age 17. And I apprenticed for 7 years, 3 different trades. I started in millwrighting, and 2 years in, switched over to tool and die making, which is what I really wanted. Finished my tool and die making, and then did a 2-year die sinking apprenticeship after that as well.
And where'd you go to work?
I started at DeFasco in my millwrighting apprenticeship, and when I went to tool and die sinking, it was at International Harvester at the agricultural implements plant in Hamilton.
And here you are, you've worked your way into a position where you're leading the Industrial Training Authority here in British Columbia, and you are, a thought leader in the area of like, where is the labor force going? I kind of asked this question because when I was growing up, everybody said to me, well, you got to go to university. If you want to get ahead in life, you got to go to university. And yet I don't know that exactly, that I was sold the right bill of goods, because it's not the only path, is it?
It certainly isn't, and there are lots of opportunities in the trades. I have 2 brothers who are 7 and 8 years older than I am, and when they went to high school, it was that university message as well. When I got to high school, it was you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want to do, you can be whatever you want to be. I was very fortunate that I had a mentor who was a high school machine shop teacher, and he suggested if you can get an apprenticeship in tool and die making, because he was a tool and die maker, it would serve you very well. And I said, why is that? He said there are 3 reasons really. Number 1, you'll never be out of a job. If you are, it'll be temporary. Number 2, you'll make a lot of money in your career. And number 3, most importantly, you'll be able to do whatever you want with your career. I said, really? He said, trust me, really. You'll be able to go wherever you want.
And he was right.
He was right.
But are we still not in a situation where the majority of parents of grade 8, grade 9 students think, I want my child to go to university? And if that's the case, how do we get people who could be very successful working in the trades to start thinking about those opportunities maybe earlier in their own development?
Well, it's really about the education of parents, the education of career counselors, and the education of students considering what it is they want to do. And if you think about it for a minute, unless you've had a family member, immediate or distant family member, or a friend who had a family member in the trades, chances are you might not have had exposure to the trades. I mean, picture growing up in downtown Vancouver in a condo, in a high-rise, right? You may never have held a hammer in your hand in your whole life. Whereas when I was growing up, you know, I had opportunities to tinker on the car with my dad, sort of thing, right? So you had that bit of exposure all the time. So you really have to look at things now and say, if you're not aware of the trades, have a look and see what there is to offer.
Is it important to look at trades as being a form of post-secondary education that has all the same opportunities as university and postgraduate and so on? And if so, how do we start to shift that mindset, especially as you say, people are living in condos in downtown Vancouver?
Well, I have a little bit of a bias, obviously, because I came from the trades. But what I like to tell people is that, first of all, these aren't jobs in the trades. These are careers in the trades. And what I mean by that is that once you get your ticket, your certificate of qualification, or your red seal, depending on the trade, you can do many different things. You can carry on and be a master on the tools for your whole career, right? Whether that's a chef in a restaurant or a millwright, etc. Or you can go into, in construction, you can go into project management or estimating, or you can rise up through management ranks in various companies like I did in my career, and go run a company for somebody, or you can start your own business and build your own company and your own empire, as many people are fortunate enough to do.
There was a period of time when I was younger, I looked at trades and thought, well, there's nowhere for me to go. Like, the trades are all full. Like, all those positions are filled. There's a union structure that's in place that gives preference to seniority. How do I, as an innovative or an entrepreneurial type, how do I excel in that kind of environment? And as a result, I went, I don't think that's for me. Was I wrong? And let's say I wasn't. What's the situation like today?
Well, it's no different than any other career, really, in that you've had a very successful career in journalism. And you did that because of 2 things. Because of your skill, and because of the opportunities that were afforded you and that you earned throughout your career. Trades is no different than that. I mean, in the union situation that you described, when I started my trades, I was in the union, right? And then I worked my way up, and I got a job as a supervisor in management and worked my way up from there. So I've worked in union environments and non-union environments, and there's really, from an opportunity standpoint, there's no difference. You apply yourself, and if you're successful at that, people notice that you want to advance yourself, advance your career, and you're willing to do the things that require that advancement. For me, it was 9 years of night school and a diploma and a degree. You are willing to prove yourself that you're worthy of that next step.
Mm. The environment has changed now, though, hasn't it? We're now in a world where there's a tremendous portion of the working population that is retiring or set to retire, and the job opportunities are expanding exponentially. Is there a crisis now in being able to attract people to trades here in British Columbia?
Well, it's not at a crisis stage, but it is certainly at a heightened awareness stage. And when we hear about the 1 million job openings that are coming in the province between now and 2022, it's important to note that 2/3 of those, or 680,000 of those jobs, are going to be to replace baby boomers who are leaving the workforce. 2/3. And 1/3, or 320,000 of those, are for the growth areas of the economy: the LNG, oil and gas, the shipbuilding, mining, forestry. All of that growth that's already started in some sectors and is expected to continue. So the important number is that 680,000. And the reason that's important is because all of the people from kindergarten to PhD level in the education system are only about 450,000. So all of those people will not be enough for all of the jobs that are coming.
Over the next 7 years.
Over the next 7 years.
So what do we do? How do we solve that problem?
Well, there are opportunities. First of all, it's BC people first in line for the job opportunities. That's the goal. That's goal number one. Second, there will be some retraining opportunities for folks who are in situations where they feel that they may be underemployed, for example, and maybe want to go back and get a trade and do some upskilling. Third will be migration from elsewhere in Canada while we work on these large projects. And then lastly, migration from outside of Canada to give us the workforce that we need.
Still 1 million jobs to be filled in a 7-year period. That's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. It is a lot of people, and I think that just strikes to me the opportunity that there's there, especially in the skilled trades.
So where does it start? Like if we're looking at the domestic market, what has to happen at the secondary school level? I'm sure not elementary school is not the place, but once we get into secondary school, do we need to refocus on some of those trades-related courses that have been there in the past and need more attention now?
We do, and we are starting. ITA has extensive youth training programs right now. We have 3 programs in high school. One is ACIT, which allows students to take first level of apprenticeship technical training at the same time they're doing their high school and get dual credit for their dogwood and apprenticeship technical training.
So in essence, you're accelerating the apprenticeship program.
Yes. In addition, we have a secondary school apprenticeship where if they can find a work partner, they can actually be working in a shop, getting valuable apprenticeship hours, and again get dual credit to their dogwood when they're finished, then carry on into apprenticeship after that.
Is this province-wide?
Yes.
And in all high schools this is available?
In most high schools it's available.
And so they have an opportunity, they go to school for a part of the day and then they can, in essence, go to work?
Yes. Yes. Go work on technical training, or if they're in secondary school apprenticeship, actually go to work in one of their courses and get up to over 600 hours of credit towards apprenticeship.
And let's say you don't participate in that when you're in high school because you're still convinced that you want to go the university path. You get a year or two into university and then you say, okay, now what do I do? Where are the opportunities there?
Well, the opportunity is always there. You know, I mentioned earlier I started when I was 17, right? I was very fortunate. I finished high school and I started right away. The average age of a first-year apprentice in BC is 27. So these are folks who have finished high school. Some have gone on to university, some have gone on to college, some have tried just the labor market without either of those, and found that this is not the career choice that I had hoped for. So now they're saying they're taking a look at the trades and they're seeing the type of income that they can make over the balance of their career and saying, it's not too late for me to get into that because of the opportunities that are there, and I think I'm going to make this choice.
Generally, what's the amount of time that you would spend in an apprenticeship program?
Typical trades, a few of them vary, but typical apprenticeship is 4 years and 4 levels of technical training.
But for a lot of that time, you're working at the same time, are you not?
Yes, for 80% of the apprenticeship is based on 20% technical training at a training provider, of which there are 14 public post-secondaries and 29 private training providers around the province that we work with. And 80% is on the job, hands-on learning that's provided by your employer.
When it comes to LNG, clearly you're going to play an important role if the province wants to realize its LNG dream. How do you gear up for that at this time? Because we're in this interesting chicken and egg thing. You need to have the workforce to be able to build it out, but what are you training them for if the opportunity isn't there? How do you help, bridge that gap?
Well, this is always the dilemma, right? Because you can't be an apprentice without what's called a job. Right?
Right.
You have to have a job, and we can do some foundation or pre-apprenticeship training to get people more prepared to be hired by employers, but you still can't be an actual apprentice until you have a job. So really, this is about succession planning, and I like to go back and talk a little bit about the Great Recession in terms of what it did to apprenticeship, because not only were apprentices not hired during that period, but many apprentices were laid off. When the downturn in the economy, so that companies could keep a focus on their core skilled trades group in that period. And I was in industry, so I understand this clearly, that's what happened. And a lot of people, when I joined ITA, said, employers need to hire more apprentices. And I understand that, but you have to take into account the recession. Now that it's getting a little bit better, the economy, and is continuing to grow stronger with the projects there, now is the time for employers to step up and look at their succession planning, right? And because I know this didn't happen to you, but since October 2008, I got 6 years older. And I got 6 years closer to retirement. And even though that's a long ways off for me, that happened to the workforce around the province. And the skilled trades workforce is the same, right? Some of them are getting a little bit of gray hair. And now is the time for employers to look at the succession planning of their skilled trades group and say, you know what, I need to step up and I need to hire apprentices.
Okay, but how does that help us prepare for an industry that isn't here right now, like LNG? How do we create the training opportunity so that we have the appropriate workforce in place when that happens?
There's still lots of opportunity elsewhere in the province. Unfortunately, and this is a Canada-wide issue, not a BC-wide issue, of every 5 employers who employ skilled tradespeople, only one of those employers also employs apprentices.
That's
So
it?
That's it, and that's not sustainable.
Why does that happen?
Many reasons. Some employers will say, I'm going to train them, they're going to leave, they're going to go elsewhere, etc. It's an investment for me. There's a Canadian Apprenticeship Forum study that actually shows for every dollar invested in apprentice training, there's a $1.47 return for that money.
To the employer?
To the employer, yes. Plus you get to train them for the specific needs of your business. Typically they're more loyal to your business, right, as you grow, because they see a career path and they can be the future managers of that company if they so choose to take that path. So there are a lot of opportunities. In terms of being prepared, I also like to tell people that there are only 3 places that skilled trades people come from. You either grow your own through apprenticeship, or you poach them from others, or you import them, which is really just kind of long distance poaching anyway. So what we need to do now is we need to grow more of our own. And that means, hiring more apprentices. If you have 50 skilled tradespeople on your workforce, go hire a dozen apprentices. If you only have 2, go hire 1, but do your part.
No, we're not talking just carpenters, plumbers, electricians. What's the range of trades that fall under your umbrella?
Well, we manage the entire apprenticeship system for British Columbia, so there are 100 different trades, and currently there are over 37,000 apprentices in the system and over 9,500 employer sponsors.
As far as the number of people who are apprentices, 37,000, how does that rank historically here in British Columbia? Have we been higher at times in the past?
We hit a peak pre-recession of 43 to 44,000, and then it dropped down to 33,000 maybe. So again, it's back on the upswing, and we just need to keep adding to those ranks to make sure that we're going to have these people ready for all the large projects.
So you need to have the people who are interested in taking up professions or trades, and you need the employers that are willing to bring them on as apprentices.
Yes.
2 different strategies around recruitment. What are you doing to encourage employers to get them on side? I know that you say that there's a return on benefit, but how do you sell them that?
Well, the way we're selling it, we're in a transition phase of the ITA, coming out of a mandate review report, and we've implemented a transition plan, or in process of implementing a transition plan. where we're increasing our industry engagement around the province. So we have a team of industry relations managers who are working with 10 sectors that we've identified around the province that are key to BC's economy. There will be sector advisory groups that advise government and the ITA on the needs, strategic needs of each of those sectors to help the economy. And in addition, we put apprenticeship advisors on the ground, 15 of them around the province, to look after the regional needs and regional differences.
So as an employer, you get a trained workforce that you can tap into, but what other benefits are there that might be direct and immediate to an employer that would make them say, okay, I'm willing to do this?
Well, it's a little bit of the flip side of the other way that says, what if I don't do this, right? And as we're traveling around the province, rolling out the Apprentice Advisor Roadshow, as I like to call it, we've been to areas that are extremely busy. The Northeast right now is booming, right? Fort St. John, Dawson Creek. They have a very difficult time finding people to do anything because there's such a shortage.
Let alone apprentice.
Let alone apprentice, right? And we go to Vancouver Island, 2 new hospitals being built, John Hart Dam refurbishment, right? We're already seeing the drain there on the existing skilled trades in the province. And I like to remind people that, take a scenario of a construction company. Let's say you're a small to medium construction company with 100 employees. And most of those are going to be skilled trades, of course. And if you get to a situation where an economy is growing and you can't find the people that you need skilled trades wise, that means that you are going to be able to not quote on all of the work that you could get. And when you're in a business and you're trying to grow it in a good economy and you can't grow it because you can't get skilled trades, there's nothing worse than that from a business, right? You've hung on through the recession, you've made it through the bottom, you're coming back up, you can't find the people. And if you don't train your own, the only thing you can do is poach. And if nobody will come to you,
I'm still somewhat overwhelmed by the number or the scope of the challenge that you and the sector has ahead of it over the next 7 years. As you say, 1 million jobs.
but the 1 million jobs, Stu, just to be correct for me, that's 1 million jobs in the whole economy. Okay, that's not 1 million skilled trades jobs.
But you have to draw from that pool of talent.
You have to draw from that pool, right? And from the skilled trade standpoint, it'll be over 100,000 jobs.
And it's essential that we get the word out. Absolutely. Well, I wish you luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.